20 years ago now, a new anime directed by the same person behind Cowboy Bebop began airing, and that series, of course, being Samurai Champloo. I absolutely adore this series. Even years after my initial watch, I still find myself thinking about and coming back to revisit this show. It was just such a unique experience, and clearly, I'm not the only one who thinks this, because even 20 years after its release, people everywhere are still talking about it. So what was so special about this show, and should you watch it? Well friends, let's talk a little bit about Samurai Champloo. Samurai Champloo is set during the Edo period and follows Mugen, Jin, and Fu. The three of them are traveling Japan in search of the samurai who smells of sunflowers. And that's really the only overarching plotline in this show. The rest of it is about the random encounters they get into on that journey. It's done in an episodic format, kind of like what you'd find in Watanabe's other shows. And this format Watanabe uses, while it has its downsides, I think those are outweighed by the unique kind of stories it allows these series to have. One episode has the crew working for a bunch of yakuzas, and then in another they're doing opium with a bunch of ninja priests. It's really fun. The freedom Samurai Champloo gains from not having these big overarching plot lines means it can really take its time to focus on these self-contained storylines. And these stories really immerse you in the journey they're going on in a way that I don't think a typical plot structure could. But the journey would suck doo-doo balls if the main cast is no good. Luckily, these guys are all awesome. Mugen is a loudmouth vagabond that absolutely refuses to take orders from anybody. So everywhere he goes, he's constantly stirring up trouble. I like this one episode where he just spends most of it bullying these Yakuza dudes and stealing their money. And his fighting style is really cool. It involves him being as unpredictable as possible. He breakdances around, uses random objects to his advantage, and just does whatever he can to win. Then there's Jin, who is the complete antithesis to Mugen. He's this stoic, silent samurai who has a very traditional fighting style, but it doesn't make him any less entertaining than Mugen. In some ways, I actually prefer Jin. Some of the best episodes are the ones focused on him. And last there's Fu. She plays a big part in equaling out the other two. And while that means she kinda gets outshined by them, Fu is pretty cool in her own right. She's a good balance of being this sorta straight man character, while also having plenty of moments that make you really like her. These guys are a fantastic trio. You get a lot of moments where the show focuses on these seemingly unimportant parts of their journey. It's in those moments that you really get to see the bonds these guys develop. And the vibes here are incredible. The atmosphere of these Edo period cities are so appealing to me. They litter them with these really amusing things that probably aren't very historically accurate, like this underground beetle fighting ring, but because they don't care about being completely historically accurate, you get things like a beatboxing samurai, or these nudie mags that are in the style of those old Japanese paintings, and other oddities that imbue the world with its own distinct identity. Its identity is also exemplified by how it chooses to end these stories. Most of the episodes end on these very bittersweet notes. They leave a lot of things ambiguous, and it creates endings that have a really enigmatic feeling. It gives you room to wonder what happened to these guys after their story ended. They do a lot in forming this almost moody atmosphere the show has. I do think a major part of my enjoyment from this show is from its presentation. The animation here is this really free-feeling and loose style that I think fits it very well, and it easily has one of the best soundtracks I've come across in anime. The standout composer here for me is definitely the legendary Nujabes. I absolutely adore this man's work. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time, and there's no show more perfect for his stuff than here. The entire soundtrack here is worth checking out. And these fights are some next level shit. Mugen jumping around doing random stuff to catch people off guard will never not be fun. And watching Jin's sword just glide through people is so smooth and satisfying. You might notice that in the fights, their swords rarely make contact with each other. And I remember hearing from somewhere that they intentionally tried to have the swords clash as few times as they could throughout the entire show, which is not very common for anime sword fights, and it gives the fights in Samurai Champloo their own distinct feeling that you can't really find anywhere else. A distinct feeling that you can't find anywhere else is a pretty good way to describe the entire show. And that's probably why I love it so much. All of these different aspects come together and create this atmosphere that just sticks with you. Don't get me wrong, Samurai Champloo has issues. It's by no means perfect. But its shortcomings are outweighed by the product we got, because you're getting something with a feeling that hasn't been replicated since. And I think that's why 20 years after its release, people are still talking about this show. If somehow Samurai Champloo has managed to stay under your radar, do yourself a favor and give it a go around. My name has been Goob. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.